thing I want to do now, since it's been a while, is just to check the charge. So we're at 800 revs per minute, and I've set this so that 800 revs per minute it should start charging. So it's regulating away, 13 volts regulating there. Lovely. Let's turn around to kerosene there now because we're up to temperature. A little bit of rev. Slight bit of rev. So we're looking at about 850 revs. Now at 850 revs you can see the max rev charge is about 13.4-ish on average. That's very good. That's very good charging. Bring her up to 1000 revs per minute. And it's not really charging any more than the max there, about 13.3. Yeah, that's probably all the battery actually needs. So I'll bring it back down to 800. And as I said, this is where I just set it to kind of come in with charge. So anything less than 13.3, and it still would charge. If the battery's at, I think it sits at about 12.6. So I'll go a little bit under 800. $750 revs, and it's going down towards on average about 13. So that's very good. The charging system seems to be working better on this than it is on my Ferguson 20 diesel. And you see the lower voltage, that's it just regulating, letting a bit off the earth. So I'm happy with that. I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. I just have to help it heat up. The fans on these blow air backwards, so it sucks air through the radiator. So the likes of that just kind of nearly get sucked onto it there. Our needle valve, have we got? Usually I used to always feel a little bit of dampness there. There's nothing, and in the little drain hole there, there's nothing, so I'm happy with that. We're up to temperature. Oil pressure is good. It's been running about 10 minutes. We're sitting there just below 800, and our charging light is exactly the way it's meant to be. Out. So I'm happy with that. Now that's way too low, so 400. You can hear it actually pinking nearly there, so actually I haven't adjusted the lows, the tick over on this since I did whatchamacallit on it, the needle valve. Oh, it's a little bit spitty there, so I'll give it a richen it up a little bit here. Quarter turn out. Now that seems to be going out of it. A little bit more. You have to have these up to temperature before you do that little adjustment. What is it sitting there? It's sitting there about 600. Yeah, I was just curious to see what the old dynamo was putting out, that's all. I know I have a few videos on that earlier on. But if it's sitting there about 13 volts on average, around 800 revs, that is definitely doing its job. Another little test I want to do is to make sure there's good flow on the TVO tank. So I've just blown out the vent hole in this to make sure that it's not blocked, because if that is blocked, it won't allow it to gravity feed down here. I'm just leaving it running without the cap on. So I'm going to stop the engine, because I know the TVO tank in this is a bit dirty and I am waiting to buy some tank sealer. So I'll stop the engine, make sure I'm not leaking there anymore, since that needle valve was oh yeah, that seems straight away, that's a good flow there straight away. So I know that there is a good bit of crud in that tank, and I don't want to go attempting to clean it just yet till I get tank sealer. But that's definitely more than enough, so that's definitely going to supply the engine with enough fuel, no doubt about it. So just another little test, and you can repeat the test then with the cap on. That fits actually nice and tight, so if that was blocked when you open this, then it just wouldn't run out of it at all. So, and that's doing basically the same, so that's fine. It's just another little test, because I noticed lately again when I have it up to temperature and it's ticking over, it is doing a little bit of spitting out the exhaust. So I don't like leaving it ticking over too low anyway, especially on kerosene, to keep the temperature up. So just having a quick retune here after I fitted the new needle valve in the float chamber, and just to get it up to temperature, get a reasonable tick over, and just run through. So I found the idle, get the torch there, the idle adjustment there, idle needle, wasn't really making much of a difference to the spitting out the exhaust I used to have. And I think before what was causing it was this wasn't tightened. So I've made sure to give them a nip. These do seem to loosen over time, especially when they're not a lock nut. There is a spring washer on them, but still. So my plan is just to get it up to temperature, have a play around with that. I'll go in too far and that'll make it rich until I see black smoke and the engine struggling, and I'll bring it back then to where it is getting too little fuel, and I'll try and count the amount of turns out and then go halfway back in and see what it's like. Now I have a feeling, since I haven't touched this main jet adjustment in a very long time, that if I richen that up slightly, it might just affect the tick over. I know on the very low tick over, it only runs off the idle jet, but I just want to see will that make a difference, because we have probably solved one problem with getting the needle valve sorted, and because it used to be leaking too much fuel, we'll say, into the throttle venturi, that would have affected the tuning. Now if that's sorted, it probably does need another little bit of fuel, and I'm hoping that actually, since this isn't doing a whole lot, I'm hoping that slight richening of the mixture in the main jet might just help things, considering I'm not going to let this tick over below about 700 revs per minute, especially when it's running on kerosene. I think you need to try and keep the heat up. When it's ticking over at 450, 500, the engine is nearly struggling. So that's what I'm going to do now, and I'll report back if I can, if I've solved the issue. So that seems to have helped things a lot. I gave the main jet a quarter turn more fuel, and then I adjusted the idle jet. Now another little thing I noticed when she was ticking over very low was this radiator cowl was just making a little bit of racket. So what I do with these, I put little rubber washers in behind. I had to do this in 20 diesel because I had some serious rattling going on. So I picked out a few. I fitted one in behind the top one already, so I'm going to fit one in there. So I'll probably loosen this off first again, so I can get the cowling to come out again. And this should help. This should help with the little rattling. Again, I might actually try and line up this cowling a bit better, take them all out, because these are going in a little bit of an angle. So I'll take them out one by one, and I'll have a look and fit rubber washers behind them. What I like to do with these screws, because I know one or two of them are a little hard to take out, is just give them a little, some of them are tight and some of them aren't, just give them a little, give the slot a little bit of a deepening, and it'll just help, because you don't want to go destroying the slots. I'll do them one by one. Little deepening. Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to do them one by one. So that first one's grand. I'll give this lad a quick. One of them was a little bit shitey, as they say here. So if you don't have enough of these rubber washers, I've one in there already. I'm going to put in 2 O-rings, and that should stop, and I'll do the same on the other side. So I'll go through these, widen and deepen the slot a bit, and fit them. I want to be really fussy about fitting this and having to see the right way around instead of being upside down or due to tightening on there. This wasn't on it when I bought it first. I'm going to loosen that nut, or tighten it, probably tighten it, until I can get this tightened up nice. Correct. Small detail, but may as well have it right. So I'm going to let's get a little nip on it with the vice grips tool that I'm not particularly fond of. Hopefully this will start to loosen. If it loosens, I can run the die down on this easy enough. Last thing I want is the brake anyway. So I'll just do it nice and carefully. Shame to this brake. I'm tighten it up a bit now. Let's try and clean the threads a bit. It only goes so much, but the pressure on the spanner. I said it'd be terrible to go too much and actually shear it off. So that has turned a little bit, so I'm going to put a little fibre washer on it just to help it grip and give it a spin. As you can see, this was off at the Ferguson 20 diesel, and it actually on them it goes through the dash, and you can see it was worn through it an awful lot, but what about it? At least it's original. So that I can come back a little bit with the threads, or go in, and I prefer to go in so that it has a good grip. That seems to be going in easy enough. Yeah. So I've gone in enough anyway that it'll definitely get a good enough grip on it. Lovely. So let's come back over the tiniest little bit back. We may as well do it. The amount of people that actually try and stop this engine by pulling this like a diesel, instead of turning off the ignition. I will try and find a better one of these that isn't so worn through, but until then, this is an original part. And I've bought new pull to stop knobs for the 20 diesel, and the quality is just not in them. This feels like it's made of Bakelite, and it has a lovely brass nut in it, so yeah. May as well, the second it takes just to have it snug, facing the right way. That's good enough for me.